It's time now for It's in the Cards on Giant Sports Talk Live, a presentation of Izzy's Gym. Here is your host, Glenn Craig.
And there is the guest. I pop in. My name is Glenn, and welcome back. It's another show. We were having some technical difficulties getting the show underway, so I am very proud and happy to be here. And I'm glad to be joined by Dan Lynch, better known just to the community, if you will, as Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. He often claims it's just him and some friends talking baseball cards. And I must say, Dan, you have got a lot of friends in the community, including myself, big fan of your platform. Welcome into our show this week, and I'm very proud to have you as a guest.
Well, Glenn, I really appreciate you bringing me on. That's a really nice introduction. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, I appreciate having you, buddy. All right, let's just jump into it. Everybody knows that on Giants off days, we feature baseball cards. And I don't know if you noticed, I want to, again this week, give a shout out to my production team of Eric Romo and Ian Robinson, who actually, Ian's way over on the East Coast in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He's the voice of the show. And how they ever got my favorite players, Wilmer Flores and Michael Schooler, in there with the likes of Ty Cobb and Mickey Mantle, I have no idea, but they knew my players. I grew up a Mike Schooler fan of the Mariners, and Wilmer just got signed to play in Mexico. Oh, do you remember any of those guys? Do you remember Mike Schooler?
Mike Schooler story. He was a relief pitcher, right?
Yes.
Started out in Seattle, right?
Don't tell me my guest knows Mike Schooler is. I love it. Love you already.
I have a story. Oh, my God.
Let her rip, buddy.
Okay. So
I'm not sure. I must add, Dan,
this
isn't scripted either. This is going to be a wild show already, I can tell.
I don't know what year it is. I think it's like 89 or 90. Mm-hmm. And Schooler is pitching for Seattle. Mm-hmm. And he had a really, really good year. And then he started to not be so good. And I had selected him from my fantasy team the year he started to be not so good. And I am about 5 rows behind the Mariners dugout in Yankee Stadium. And they bring Schooler in, and it's not even a save situation. And I'm like, this guy is killing me on fantasy baseball. He's given up a run every game. He's coming in, he's giving up a run here, run there. And I'm like, he comes off the field after pitching a good inning, like a 1-2-3 inning, or maybe a hit or a walk or whatever, but a scoreless inning. He comes off the field, and I yell at him, "Hey, Schooler, you finally didn't give up a run." It's like, he looks up, nasty. He looks at me, and he smiles.
Unbelievable. He is now a school teacher in Southern California, Dan, and I've had the opportunity to touch base with him. Maybe I'll get him on a show and talk about his cards one day. That would be a hoot. I've got he's been after me because, collecting for me, I feel like I was too young at the time, because now it's become a real financial crisis in the world when it comes to collecting. When I was younger, things were much more affordable back in the 70s and 80s collecting wise. When I didn't have the coin and I was in high school and junior high, and I happened to pick up Mike Schooler's game-worn rookie jersey and his second-year jersey, 2 different numbers. Most people would say, he wore number 29. I said, not exactly. First season, rookie year, number 40. So I went to a show, and I brought along the jerseys, and he's like, "You're not leaving here with those. I want those jerseys." But they are still in my closet. Big fan of him. He's a good guy, a phys ed teacher in Southern California. So great way to start the show.
I think I agree with you that he was probably a good guy, because he wasn't mad or whatever. He knew when I said that I knew that he had given up a run like 4 or 5 consecutive games, and he was killing me on my fantasy team, because if a reliever gives up a run, kills his ERA. And he walked off, and he looked up, and he nodded, and he smiled in Yankee Stadium. So,
gosh,
there you go.
It's another special edition of Giant Sports Talk Live. It's in the cards with Dan Lynch. You see his name associated with the channel, Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. I was there the day you released your first video. Maybe,
Wow.
correct me if I'm about a year and a half, maybe ago. I remember you were a little more
Oh
subdued.
no.
You've really picked up the momentum, though. You've come into your own. You're a great host on your channel. When did you start the show? And for I guess right out of the bat, why vintage? Why is Dan a vintage guy?
Okay, so I started the show. It'll be 3 years in June. I actually started the first week of June, 2023.
Mm.
And so it'll be 3 years. Why vintage? Well, I mean, when I started collecting, I'm old enough to have collected 1970 tops out of the wax pack. I was a very little kid, youngest kid in the family. My older brothers, all sports fans. My dad was a baseball fan, so I started collecting cards, and then I started to get into the history of the game, and I just was a history guy. That's just my vibe. So after I started collecting as a kid, like 70, 71, up through like 74, I don't like 75 because I was getting old at that point. The colors were stupid, and I thought it was a kid's thing. But then later on, like 78, 79, I started collecting vintage cards, like, as a teenager. And that was this time when shows started coming into the area. I grew up in New York, Long Island, and I started going to shows and buying cards. And I was playing sports in high school, and some of my friends from the sports teams, basketball and baseball, were also baseball card fans. So there were several of us who were going to shows and trading and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, the vintage just seemed more exciting to me, more interesting. It had a history to it. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, there's a vibe to it that just always attracted me. And then I got out of the hobby as I went to college and came back in like the late 80s, and was still wanted vintage. And that was really where it was. And that's why I'm still doing it. And when I went back to start collecting again after 2012, I wanted vintage. That's all I wanted. So I have almost no modern cards.
I remember when I got into the baseball side. So I grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada, and it was all hockey. Everybody was at the corner store. They couldn't wait for the O-Pee-Chee series to come out. It was fresh. But I will tell you, Dan, I get into the baseball. I remember getting my first pack of ball cards. They were O-Pee-Chee, 1977. They were the greenbacks, followed in 78 by the nice brownbacks.
Yeah.
When I look back at that, and I still have a fondness for certain sets, including those which welcomed me into the collecting world, as good or evil as it may be, I'll tell you, it takes you back to a better time, Dan. It takes you back to your youth. You remember the cards. I can still wake up at night and smell that pink aroma of the dusted gum. There was something special. And I don't know if this was the same for you, Dan. Speaking of vintage, it didn't take long for things to become vintage when I was a kid, because I had a little vintage in my blood, so to speak. Because, Dan, what would happen is, let's say the 78 O-Pee-Chee baseball would come out, or tops, for that matter, for our American viewers. Same set, basically, a little smaller in Canada. I would get some packs, and all my doubles, I'd be trading them off for 72s and 75s, because when the 78s came out, Dan, nobody wanted the 77s anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, it was mind-boggling. In hockey, I can remember picking up a stack, like almost a grocery satchel of 76 hockey in 77. The Cesar Maniegos, the Jean Rattels. Nobody wanted them. Oh, they're last year's. And,
exactly.
and boy, how things have changed, Dan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I'm not in the modern hobby. I've collected, I've handled, I have some newer cards, but I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. We had one set. That was what you collected. There were X number of cards, and that's what you collected. And if you wanted to go back to previous years, you went back to previous years. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with cards from the 60s and the 50s. And I never saw Gowdy cards until like I went to shows and stuff, but like Topps cards from the 50s and 60s. And I'll tell you, there was a book that I bought, and I can't remember the name of it. But it was a book that was sort of a comedy version of Baseball Card Collector. It's like the Great American Trading Ball Club. I can't remember the name. It's got a long name to it. And I got into that book, and that book really like set me off in terms of like the history of the cards, and also appreciating that all the cards have stories. It's not just Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. It's like the guys, and we'll talk about them a little bit later, but the guys that have stories, they call them common cards. I don't think there are any common cards. I think every card has a good story to it. So that's kind of one of the things I picked up from this book, and I'll send you a link to it when we're done talking.
I appreciate that. We'll put it up in the channel as well and kind of promote that as a little background to you getting into the collecting business. So we flash back to your youth, New York. You said 70, 71. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. As being a fan of your channel, Dan's Vintage Baseball PC, I welcome everyone to, after this show is over, jump out, check out some of your old reruns and stuff like that. It's posted right there on the screen. Dan, is it the 7071 channel that you have featured on your show that you're actually trying to get the entire set autographed?
Yes.
That's the cool thing, Dan, about collecting too. You don't just collect sets. You can collect your favorite player, your favorite teams players. You can. Right. I have quite a run, as people know, on Giant Sports Talk Live. Anyone who has spent time in federal penitentiary, I have an autograph card of, going back to like 1898. So there are, it can take you down a garden path, Dan. But I think, could you show that card again and give us a little background on why you decided to work on an autograph complete set? And I suppose it is, again, because that is the flashback to your collecting debut, so to speak.
So I never completed the 70 top set when I was a kid, and I tried to do it in the 80s, and it maybe even a little into the 90s. And this is the sad part, in 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit the east coast of the United States really badly, including Long Island. And my parents lived on the water in Long Island. And what happened was, the water came into the house for the first time ever. And my collection got 1/3 of it was destroyed. But when I was told to come out and take a look at what the damage was, I came out and I found what was there and what wasn't there. And so I salvaged some of it, including quite a bit of 1970 tops in a binder as if I were working on the set, and with like sections missing. So I ended up deciding to complete the set, which I did in 2017. And then I was like, what do I do now? I have the whole set. I can, start working on other sets, which I did. I started working on 71, which I completed. But then I decided to start getting autographs from that set. And basically decided to just do as many as I could. And there you go.
Quite the feat, I'll tell you what. And again, it allows you collect. Dude, I always say my favorite line, I got to get a T-shirt that says, you can take me out of collecting, but you can't take the collecting out of me. I always find a different avenue, Dan.
So there's more to this. I just didn't know if you would the screen.
No, sorry. Go ahead, my friend.
So I start doing what's called TTM, through the mail. 1970, I get a full list of what the cards are. I go through every single player and figure out, A, are they still alive? And
you didn't
B,
steal any, did you? You're doing through the mail. I hear the police coming. They're not coming to get you, I hope.
Oh, I live on First Avenue. It's right here.
Oh, really? Oh, busy spot. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
So I end up doing through the mail, and I'm doing tons of them. I'm doing like 5 a day for like 18, 19. I'm going to shows. I'm getting signatures. I'm tracking these guys down because I know it's a ticking clock. A lot of these guys are like in their 70s and their 80s. And I have stories about guys dying like 2 weeks after I got the card back. I mean, it's a race against time. And then COVID hits and it just completely stops all of my TTM because, the post office is down and I'm like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to send stuff to people. Everybody's scared of germs. And so I stopped TTM for like 6 years. I continued to work on the set. If I see a guy who I don't have in the set at a show, I go get it. If I see that there's a private signing, I'll send it out. So I was doing that kind of stuff. And I buy cards. I buy some slabs occasionally, with a signature. And I was getting some of the big Hall of Famers. I got Hank Aaron, Willie Mays. And so very recently, I got the TTM bug again because of another YouTuber, Jake from Wax Pack Wisdom, who you may know, started to do the 68s. And so I said, hey, can I see? He's a very organized guy. He sends me his spreadsheet. He's got all these addresses. And I start going through and figuring out, hey, I could still do more TTM. I'm not done. I'm done now. I figured out that everybody I've either gotten from, they're not alive anymore, or there's a handful of guys that just don't communicate with fans at all. So this was a recent TTM, my first one in 6 years, Bob Robertson. And
you want to bring that up again, Dan? I'll give him a nice view of that one.
Yeah, Bob Robertson. Remember him? He was a star in the 1971 playoffs. I think he hit 3 or 4 home runs for the Pirates, propelling them into the World Series. And back when I was doing TTM, he wasn't a good one, but now he's good again. I don't know why, but he's back doing them again. So, hey. So
well, again,
I have about 40 out, and that's the end of it. And then I'm going to start doing, buying autographs of guys that have passed on. And I want to get up to about 500.
Well, let me ask you on the tail of that then. I mean, we're kind of going down. This is the first time I've actually met you is tonight. Let's be honest. And it's kind of a feeling out process, asking about your collection and that. We'll get into Benny Kauff. Everybody wants to know who the heck is Benny Kauff. We'll talk about that coming up soon. But has meeting guys up in the community at the shows, meeting with the National. Now it's not just the National. Some of these, the Philly show, the Dallas show. There's some big shows. Yeah. And for me personally, I hope to meet you at the National this year, and we'll touch base. Have you had an opportunity to meet with fellow collectors who maybe through your channel or not come to know that you're collecting that set? Has anybody reached out and said, "Oh yeah, I happen to have a Willie Mays from that 70 autographed. I got it at Oracle Park. Let's work out a deal, or here you can have it." Has the community helped you?
It wouldn't be Willie Mays. Willie Mays cost me a lot of money.
I bet he did,
but yes. The short answer is yes, and it's not. Can we work out a trade, or do you want to buy this? Most of the time, it's I've got a few from this set. Do you need any of these guys? And I say, yeah, I need this guy and this guy, and I'll just get it in the mail. Nice. Like that's the community. Like if somebody has a card and they know I need it, they're going to send it to me. And this happens all the time. I'm talking like maybe 30 different cards have come from different guys in the community. They hand it to me at a show. They mail it to me. It's just that's what I'm talking about. And yeah, that happens occasionally. And it's a good thing. And there's one guy named Tim. He's Tony Liebrick's best friend, and Tim started a channel, but he's only done a few videos. He and I met at the National, and he was like, I have these 2 signatures that my dad got at the Nashville Sound Stadium in like 1980 from the 1970 set, and they're 2 guys you need. Do you want them? And he sent them to me. And I know, no, can we trade, whatever, just send them to me. And I'm like, this guy is tough. I know he's passed away. The other guy is also kind of tough to get, and he sent me 2 autographs, and I was like, "Wow!" Like, this is the community. So yeah, I mean that's what happens.
Yeah, it's a wonderful community because again, it's more than just collecting. You meet guys. Yeah. I met the great Mangini, I call him. He's like a wizard of the community. He took me for a cold refreshment. I mean, he took me kind of under his wing. Like I said, you don't know little old Glenn from Giant Sports Talk. He goes, let's go for a drink. We'll talk about your show and tell me what you collect. And people have an interest, and they might not collect the way you do, but everybody it's kind of they back each other, don't they, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say my channel has affected the way I collect and the things that I collect. Like I will see stuff that other guys have, and it's not like FOMO or anything, but it'll interest me in a set or interest me in a particular card. There are cards that I have in my collection that I love that I never saw before until somebody on YouTube showed it, on a show or to me or whatever. And that really, made me want to go out and get it, and I get them. And, sometimes it's players I don't know enough about. I go and research and I'm like, wow, that YouTuber really knows this guy. And this guy is a really interesting player. So that'll also allow me to get more things in my collection, more things in my brain too. It's not just collecting the cards; it's knowing what the cards are and who the players are on the cards and their history.
And I'll tell you what, it's not just cards. As my wife knows, I am easily influenced. I'm roped in by Dan and watching his tremendous programs, because you do a lot of research, and you've introduced me to players that I wouldn't know. Truly, I'd be dead and gone, and I would not even know these, what you would call a guy with a story that people call common players. You've introduced me to those. And my wife's like, "Will you stop with the Did you have to go buy the Old Man and the Sea book just because Dan bought one?" You tune into Dan's and you'll know the story behind that. But anyway, Dan, stick around. He and I will lurk around here on screen, and we'll be right back. Today's show, In the Cards, on Giant Sports Talk Live, with my special guest, Dan's Vintage Baseball PC, Dan Lynch, is brought to you by Izzy's Gym. Don't let, as Dan would say, don't let that name fool you.
Giant Sports Talk Live, It's in the Cards, is brought to you by Izzy's Gym.
Izzy's Gym.
I'm Chris from Izzy's Gym. If you got a Pokemon collection that you're looking to sell, I'm looking to buy it. No collection too big or small, we'll buy it all. If you have a collection or your kids have a collection, just reach out and we can tell you what it's worth. Most people have no idea what's sitting in their closet. Stuff you bought for $1 back in the day could be worth thousands today. If you have a Pokemon collection that you don't need, you can sell it and get money for things that you do need. Reach out to us at Izzy'sGym.com.
Izzy's Gym, a Pokemon store, and so much more.
That's Izzy'sGym.com.
Now, back to more It's in the Cards on Giant Sports Talk Live.
All righty, Izzy's Gym. He mentioned in his advertisement there that, you might have them locked in your closet. Dan, one thing I like about watching your show, you don't have them in shoebox. I'm sure you have a few in shoeboxes in the closet and under the table, but I love your display. Are those some of your favorite additions to the collection, favorite players? Tell us about the montage.
Okay, so I do have a lot of boxes. They're all underneath here or over here. You hear that? That's a box. That's a box. There's some over here. There's a lot of stuff you can't see. But this is the stuff that's like my favorite stuff. So you've got Koufax, you've got Spawn, you got all the pre-war stuff along here. You've got all the 30s, Ted Williams, and then all the 30s stuff down here. Down here, you got mostly 60s. You got Clemente, you got Aaron. Over here are the Yankees. You can't really see him. Mantle, Al Rosen. These are my 1914 Braves, my 1948 Braves, and Sam Jethro stuck in there, even though he's not. Then you've got what's his name? Hubble, Grove, Seaver, and Feller. So that's like all the pitchers. And then you have some of the pre-integration stars. You've got the Cuban cards. You got Larry Doby. And some of the Dodgers are out of the scene here. You've got a box of Dodgers up there. You got Mantle up there, and then just assorted stuff. So a lot of stuff. Nice. Over here, you got a whole bunch of stuff over here that you really can't see. This is a cigar box with some cigar cards on top, and then there's tickets and big cards. And I did want to show one postcard.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I think you guys will love it. It's a giant postcard.
It's funny. I've seen these before. That's a beauty of the Polo Grounds.
Yes. And the great thing about this one is what's on the back. It's a letter. It's a postcard to H. Fendrick of Evansville, Indiana. And the person, they're bringing one of their relatives from Germany because World War I has just broken out. Look at the postmark. August 22nd, 1914. First battle in World War I was in July of 1914. So they're bringing this person home. Do you know who H. Fendrick is? That is the biggest tobacco company in the world at the time. And they produced, I'll even show you the box. They produced cigars.
Guys, this is fascinating stuff.
See the H. Fendrick right there? Mm-hmm. They produced Charles Denby cigars. And in 1932, Denby Cigars produced a baseball card set. 1932 Denby Cigars. Chicago only. This is Charlie Grimm, which is my last video on my channel, Charlie Grimm. Amazing historical guy who in his first game, batted against Walter Johnson and managed all the way into the 1960s. So he covered a very long stretch of time in baseball.
Nice.
So that's the kind of stuff I absolutely love, like cards, history, regular people with stories that all kind of intersect. And they're just fascinating to me that they intersect. Like the world has so many different, like it's like a spider web. And if you can connect them together, to me, that's amazing. And a lot of my videos, I try to do that. I try to connect guys. And that you talked about the Old Man in the Sea. I took Dick Sisler all the way from hanging out with his dad and Roger Hornsby through being in the Old Man in the Sea because he played in Cuba, through hitting a home run for the 1950 Whiz Kids, and then managing Pete Rose with the Cincinnati Reds in the 1960s. And that to me is like amazing. If you can connect all that stuff up, that to me it's just fascinating. And that kind of what makes the hobby so amazing is that you can do, it's not just guys, pictures of men on cardboard. It's American history, it's art, and it's culture. And it's just like so much happening as long as you are willing to look into what the cards really are.
Yeah, I just fascinating stories you've been able to tell on your channel. Again, check out Dan's Vintage Baseball PC channel. You will not be disappointed if you're like my co-host on the show, Eric Romo, and myself, Glenn. We are big, we call ourselves historians of the game. There's nothing better to watch than old footage of like anywhere from 1900 to 1925. Like it was magical stuff, Dan. I've had a chance, especially hockey collecting. So I grew up, I don't know if you know this about me. I broadcast for 18 years, professional hockey. So I go back, people knew who I was. I didn't necessarily know who they were. And I got a chance to meet a lot of players and I sort of take it to the approach you do. I've met guys like most people would. Who's Norm Ferguson? Well, Norm Ferguson played in Sydney, Nova Scotia, went on to lead he was one of the top goal scorers in the World Hockey Association, which merged into the NHL. Got a chance to meet with him. He has signed so many different cards. He's given me stuff. He goes, hang on, I got something here. And he'd give me stuff. And then when I broadcast in New Brunswick, Canada, I heard that, hey, they just hired a new athletics director at St. Thomas University. I said, who's that? Al McAdam. I said, it couldn't be the Al McAdam who is the star forward for the Minnesota North Stars from Prince Edward Island. Yes, as a matter of fact. So you know who's like me making a beehive for the Monster Box and pulling out all his Minnesota North Stars and showing up at the guy's doorstep at the university, but yours truly. So I love chasing down like you did with your 70, 71 set. I love getting the autographs. Mm-hmm. I collect a lot of WHA autographs. And those, again, are becoming hard to get because of the age, right? I mean, we're into 2026 as we broadcast this, and these guys are getting up there in age. I mentioned earlier in the show, Dan, some of this great stuff you collect, you picked it up at the National. I know that. I see some of the others you've been showing on recent shows. You pick up at other shows coast to coast. You mentioned big shows started coming in. You said a few shows in the 70s, but it came into fruition really in the 80s. Now, my gosh, the National's the big one, but it's getting rivaled.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that the Philly show celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2025. They started out. Oh, I just lost my internet for a second. Oh, well.
You lost it, so maybe we'll start that. You're talking about the Philly show.
Philly show. 1975, Philly show starts. So it's one of the earliest shows, and it's just celebrated its 50th anniversary, continually running. And continually running through downtimes in the hobby, through like a bunch of different locations. Like 1 or 2 years, it was in Reading, Pennsylvania, which, Pennsylvania is a little bit out from Philly. And not sorry Reading, but it's not the greatest town on earth. Anyway, so like the Philly show has grown in the last 10 years to the point where they had 1,000 tables at the March show. And that's 1,000 tables, primarily sports. There's not that much Pokemon there. There's not much other stuff. And it's huge. They went from one room in a casino to 2 rooms in the casino to now at the Philly Expo Center to 1 room and then to the bigger room. then to the big room and the other room. Now they're in a third room. So there's like, it's just so big. And it's almost like, I described it last night as the National without the carnival. If you remember last year's National, they had like a Ferris wheel and all this, all the breakers and all that nonsense. Yeah. And like the museum, the museum and all the like the places showing off their auction stuff. And,
yeah, I mean, that's why I can't get into the Fanatics show. I can't get into that. Like that's
what the Fanatics show is primarily.
Yeah.
But if you just take the cards, the sports cards at the National, I think the Philly show is now that same thing, and size-wise. And I mean, I could be wrong. The numbers might be not quite there yet, but in terms of just, you could go to this Philly show, you could go to Strongsville, and you could go to maybe one other show, and you would be fine without even going to the National. I mean, I'm going to the National this year, but hey, it might be my last. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Do you not feel, Dan, like I do, that the National is not just, I mentioned earlier in the show, but the community? It's not just the show for me. The week from Tuesday to Sunday at the event, whether it's primarily in Chicago, it's been in Atlantic City in the last few years. We went to Cleveland, where I met you 2 years ago, just briefly in passing. But it is more meeting with the community. It's just a get together, and it's hey, that's Dan. And I go over, I talk to you. I met Mr. Mangini there. It's just kind of it's about the people. I truly mean that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of that at last year's National, and frankly, that makes it worthwhile. There were a lot of events. We did Mangini's group, the Misfits, did a thing on Wednesday night that was fun. Then there was the whole Thursday night fiasco that ended up being okay for some of us. Friday night, I went to a dinner. Saturday, we had the trade night, Four Collectors trade night. So we had a whole bunch of stuff. Every night there was something going on. And then during the day, I would go out to lunch with different guys. We went to other people's rooms and suites and whatever. So there was a lot going on. And the social event is great, but there's so many people there. And, Strongsville has, I think, the same amount of social stuff going on. It's not the full week. It's only like 3.5 days. But I mean, the Philly show has a get together now. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not poo-pooing the National. I'm just saying this year we're in a hotel that's like a mile away because we couldn't get the hotels close to the center, and we'll see how it plays out.
Hey, who ordered the poo-poo platter?
No poo-poo in here, Dan. No poo-poo in here. And to what you just said, this is not a hobby. A lot of people think baseball collectors, when I was collecting in school, they were calling me like the nerd. Like Glenn is just like, Glenn's collecting little kids' baseball cards. And buddy, I rolled with it. I didn't care. I was in my own dimension. I had a passion. I was setting up. I was running my own card shows. They would do the announcements. The high school hockey team's playing at 7:00 against Sydney Academy. The girls volleyball team's got a game at 4. And Glenn is in 7B from noon to 1 today buying your cards. I was like a dealer at a young age. I was going around the school because I was trying to gobble up guys who were my age who had older brothers who had left home. Their cards were under the bed or in a shoebox. And I get $5 if you show up with a box of cards, and people were all over that. But now, again, with the shows, it's just monstrous. Can I show you one card before we're going to get into our feature event of the day, which is Benny Kauff, a little background. You inspired me through yourself and the vintage community and some of your guests talking about this gentleman. This was one of my recent pickups. It says on the back that Roger Thorpe signed this on September 15th, 1910. He was playing for Cleveland, I believe, at the time. But anyway, I picked up can you see that, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
And you know who that is.
Yeah, Roger Peckinpah. He was a Yankee captain.
So I was inspired by watching your show. My wife's like, you're not allowed to watch these shows anymore because the eBay orders were coming in hot and heavy, I'll tell you. That's the problem. But that was one of my key additions, and recently picked up, I like doing dual signed items too, Dan. which I'm sure you've got a few, but we recently lost Glenn Hall, longtime goaltender in the National Hockey League. So they're like that card.
Oh, that's great.
Look at the dual signature, great condition, and like they both signed it. I got it upside down, but it's hard to do it when you're in the camera doing the show. But like,
I know you got it. Oh, yeah, there it is. Right. Yeah. That's
so anyway,
great.
I enjoy the collecting. I like the vintage. Coming up next, oh boy, it's like I need the big voice to come down from the heavens and say, "And now your feature presentation," because next. Dan and I are going to talk about Benny Kauff. It is kind of a spin-off of one of his programs that I viewed, it's got to be close to a year ago now. But the Benny Kauff show that you aired was fascinating to me. It has ties to, I broke out the hat, vintage, the New York Giants. We'll talk about Benny Kauff when we come back after one more quick break in the show. And again, thank you to our sponsors, including Tommy's Mexican. Tommy recently hosted the whole crew, Eric, Lou, myself, and all of the Giant Sports Talk live fandom. We showed up, free drinks, Dan. Our sponsors paid for the drinks and the food. It doesn't get any better than that. So Julio and everybody at Tommy's, we thank you for supporting this edition of In the Cards on Giant Sports Talk Live and the channel in general. We're back with more with Dan and some Benny Kauff talk after this. Well, the baseball season is back underway. And of course, that means Eric, Lou, and myself, Glenn, we will have open forum after the final pitch or 8 o'clock, whichever comes first. Game nights. And on off nights, we, of course, talk some baseball cards.
Your number one source for Giant sports talk and debate. Always has been, always will be. Giant Sports Talk Live.
Got Danny Lynch from Dan's Vintage Baseball PC on the show this week. And you know what? The show is going okay. I mean, this isn't bad, Dan. I hope I haven't scared you away. This is only our second time doing a baseball card-related show. So I appreciate your patience with us. We were slow getting to air today. I don't know what happened. The gremlins were acting up. But let's talk about the feature presentation of the day. Benny Kauff. This guy was, you talked about it earlier. All I can say is you said there are no commons in the collecting world, and there's no story left untold, especially when it comes to this guy. Tell us about Benny Kauff and your interest in collecting Benjamin.
So, you brought up the WHA, and I am fascinated by these alternative leagues. The WHA, the ABA. I was an ABA fan as a little kid, and then they went out of business and merged with the NBA. Mm-hmm. I'm a fan of the Federal League. The Federal League existed for 2 seasons, 1914 and 1915, and they took existing players from the teams that so older guys went in there. They got some prospects. They played baseball, and they had some good players. And Benny Kauff had been stuck in the minors. The Yankees had like 2 or 3 times had not brought him up when he probably should have. And he ended up out in Indianapolis in the minor leagues. And Indianapolis ended up getting a Federal League team. And they told Benny Kauff, we'll double your salary if you play for us. So Benny Kauff goes to play for the Indianapolis team in the Federals. And this is the Cracker Jack card from Benny Kauff, Indianapolis Federals. And Benny Kauff, in that 1914 season for Indianapolis, dominates the league. They didn't have an MVP, but he would have been the MVP. He gets the batting title. He leads the league in runs, hits, stolen bases, batting average, on base percentage, everything. He leads the league in everything. And Indianapolis wins the title. And so he's a champion. He's the best player in the Federal League. And people start calling him the Ty Cobb of the Federal League.
They did.
Benny leans into that. And so in 1915, Indianapolis, the champions of the Federal League, fold. They move to Newark, New Jersey. All their players become free agents. And Benny Kauff gets assigned to the Brooklyn Tip Tops. The Brooklyn Tip Tops had the previous season, Mordecai Three Finger Brown had been their manager and pitcher. And so the Brooklyn Tip Tops are a team that I'm fascinated with because they played in Brooklyn. There we go. They played in Brooklyn. They played in Washington Park, which is like I'm not even sure what they call that section, but it's over near where Barclays Center is now, where the Nets play. And so I'm fascinated by Brooklyn Tip Tops, which is why I started getting interested in Benny Kauff. And so what happens is he signs a contract with the New York Giants before the 1915 season, and the commissioner refuses to let him play because he's playing in this renegade league. And so he gets sent back to the Brooklyn Tip Tops. He plays a full season with Brooklyn. He wins the batting title again. He's not quite as good that year as he was the previous year, but he has a fantastic season, and he's on top of the world. The Federal League holds. All the players are free agents now, and the Giants sign him again, and he comes into New York as a Giant in 1916, wearing fur, jewelry, dressing to the nines, and declaring himself better than Ty Cobb.
Ooh, those are big shoes to fill, Dan.
So Benny Kauff comes in to play for the New York Giants in 1916. And there he is in a very rare baseball card, the Globe Clothing. The Globe Clothing was one of the advertisers on the back of this, which it says Market Street. I'm pretty sure that's not Market Street in San Francisco. I'm pretty sure that's Boston.
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And so Benny Kauff plays for the Giants in 1916, and he's not that good. It ends up that he's not that good.
Let's bring that
and
on.
So he hits like 260. He ends up being I think he led the league in stolen bases. Maybe he was like an early 5-tool player. He was a home run guy. He was a steals guy. He was a fielder with an incredible arm, and he was fast as lightning. So he had all the attributes. And so he does eventually get better. So the Giants, as you know, win the pennant in 1917. Benny Kauff bats third in the lineup. He hits over 300. He has a really good year. Game 4 of the World Series, he hits 2 home runs in the same game. The only player to do that in the National League until 1948. So, he's doing pretty well. And he hits 300 in 1918. 1919, he goes down a little bit. And in the offseason between 1919 and 1920, he gets arrested and indicted in New York City for auto theft. And
wasn't he running like a chop shop or something out there? Like, what is that? What? Come on.
Possibly. So he and his brother own a auto repair shop.
Yeah.
And they end up hiring these 2 ex-cons.
There's your first problem, Dan.
Yeah. They steal the car, they chop it up, they sell it, and they ends up stolen car. So Benny Kauff gets charged. These 2 guys, these 2 ex-cons testify against him, and they're like, the jury is like, get out of here. And they acquit him in 5 minutes. So he's like, I'm all good. I'm back. Kennesaw Mountain Landis says, no.
We all know.
You have, by hanging out with these ex-cons, besmirched the game, and you are banned for life. So Benny Kauff plays the 1920 season, is banned for life, and does not play the 21 season. And
let's just point out for our viewers too, he wasn't a member of the 1919 White Sox. This is completely, everybody knows that story. So this is why your stories enlighten me and should be enlightening our viewers here today. This is one that's not talked about, Dan.
Well, let me say this. Benny, Arnold Rothstein, who was the mob guy from New York that was involved in the 1919 fixing, allegedly told Landis that Benny Kauff tried to get in on the fix also, but he didn't want So poor Benny.
Oh my goodness.
He ends up getting, tossed from the game. He grew up in southeastern Ohio, right on the West Virginia border. He's literally on the river that separates Ohio from West Virginia. His father was a coal miner. Benny Kauff, as a 13-year-old, is a coal miner, working in the mines with his father, getting all this upper body strength. And when he ended up having a great arm, and he was strong. He was not a big guy, but he ends up getting out and starts playing, a baseball, semi-professionally, and that's how he got out of the mines. So this is a guy who grew up dirt poor, who ends up getting out of the mines, gets into New York City wearing fur coats and stuff, and then just throws it all away.
Sounds like you get caught up in the limelight a little bit there, Dan.
Yeah, and so everybody, you read his bio, and people are like, oh, he got thrown out, he moved back to Ohio, and that's the end of him. And that's not the end of him.
Ooh.
Benny Kauff, in the 20s, he's got no money coming in. He likes to live a high lifestyle. He's got a wife and a son, and he gets caught up in bootlegging. He becomes a 1920s bootlegger. And he ends up, I don't think he ever went to a penitentiary, so I don't think you need to get his card.
I have a couple of his cards anyway, but
he ends up doing some time. And he gets a suspended sentence, and he gets sent to Columbus, Ohio, wants nothing to do with him anymore, and says, just get out of town. So he comes back to New York in the early 30s, tries to rejuvenate his career, tries to get back in, and then it's just the rest of his life, I think, was spent pretty much hand to mouth, whatever con he could come up with. And so he's not a good guy, but he's a very entertaining guy. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of laughs, I'm sure. Sounds like the guy who you'd find in the back corner of the booth in the shady bar. And it sounds like the guy who's hanging around with sleepy Bill Burns or somebody of that ilk, that character.
Yeah. He might've been a bit of a drinker. He died at the age of 71 of a brain hemorrhage. I don't know where that comes from. I should also mention that Benny Kauff did have part of his baseball career interrupted because he actually went into the service in World War I. So he was an actual veteran. Whether that affected his when he came back, I don't know. Or if that affected his health, I don't know. But he was a veteran of World War I. And he, like I said, he died from brain hemorrhage in I think he was 71. But Benny Kauff was back in the news last year because Rob Manfred, when he declared that Pete Rose, having passed away, could now be eligible for the Hall of Fame, was no longer banned for life because his life is over. Mm-hmm. That applied to all these other guys, including Joe Jackson and Benny Kauff. So Benny Kauff is technically eligible for the Hall of Fame, but he's not. And the reason he's not is because he didn't play 10 full seasons. He played 8.5.
Shot himself in the foot, Dan.
Yeah. He wasn't making the Hall of Fame anyway.
Well, his number, the guy had speed. I did a little research on his numbers. The guy he could hit. He had speed. Seemed like a pretty good all-around baseball player.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they called him the five tool guy. So I have collected all of the images that appear on cards that he has. Now,
here's a few more.
You think that's the same card? It's two different cards from the same strip card sets from the same era, basically. Mm-hmm. If you look at the numbers, 516 2-1, 516 1-1, one he looks in one direction, one he looks in the other direction. One's number 15, one's number 16. the copyright is on the right and the one on the left, and on the left and the one on the right. The one on the left doesn't have his team in his position. So, it's a little bit of a different card. It's a strip card. It's not an attractive card. But
tell me about that card and tell our viewers, because a lot of people tune in now. They're learning on a weekly basis about card collecting, and this vintage. So we're talking 1920 and 21. Those aren't exactly images. Are those shaded? Are those portrait? Are those painted? What? Tell us a bit about the card themselves, Dan.
I mean, many of these strip cards, in the 1920s, they would introduce what they call strip cards. They would come in a strip, like rolled out. Like, ticket, like a ticket strip, like when they have when you pull off the tickets. And it's like that, except you would have to cut them yourself. They're hand cut. You see this, it's actually listed hand cut on the label there. So what happens is you get the thing, you buy the strip of players, and then you cut them up and they become cards. The printing process and the production of these is rudimentary at best. Some of these are actually pretty decent, like the artwork is okay. But as you can see, some of these are kind of clownish. If you see, there's another strip card in this run. If you pull up the next, that's a much nicer card. It's the W514.
Is that the large one, or is that the?
No, it's a red, very red. Yeah, you see the one on the right there.
Yes, sir.
That's the 19 to 21. It couldn't be 21 because he was out of the league by then. So it's probably like 1919. I mean, that's pretty decent. The color is good. It's an artist rendition. It is actually, a drawing done by an artist based on a photograph. And these 514s are actually pretty good. And look at that color. That red is really beautiful. I should add.
Great presentation. Great presentation on those cards too. Corners, centering's pretty sharp. I like them a lot.
Yeah, 3 is a high grade for those cards. And in fact, the other one that had a 3, it's the highest graded example in the world. I have the top one. Nice. So the one on the left is Collins McCarthy, which was a candy company out of San Francisco. So if you look on the back of that, if you give me a full screen here, speaking of the
screen, buddy, hang tight. Let's see if I can get rid of this one and get rid of this one and bring you back.
There we go. Collins McCarthy Candy Company, San Francisco, California. Makers of Z-Nut and Candy Makers. Z-Nut themselves produced baseball cards, so it was produced by this same company, but they called them Z-Nut. These are Collins McCarthy, out of San Francisco, ironically enough, and a player for the Giants 30-some-odd years before they would move to San Francisco. Actually, no, almost exactly 40 years.
I believe the building is still there, and it's painted like on the old, it's faded. And Z-Nut building still stands today here. I'm doing the show from San Francisco, Dan.
It's amazing.
Z-Nut, I'm going to have to get a shot. And if I ever come on one of your shows or join you as a guest or on another program, I promise you I'll get a picture of Z-Nut, and maybe I'll send you a picture you're going to have for your display purposes.
I would absolutely love a picture of the Z-Nut factory. But you look at the picture here. This is a common picture of Benny Kauff. He's on any number of cards with this. Most of them are very hard to find, but this is the one I actually was able to find. So, I've gotten the same photograph, and there's a number of these with the same photograph. They're the M101s. This one happens to be the Globe clothing.
Okay.
And then there's this one. This is Fleischmann's. Fleischmann's was a bakery in Brooklyn. And they produce these large cards, and they're very, very rare. In fact, this Benny Kauff card, there's only, I think, 4 of them known to exist. And this is the only one that exists in SGC without the label on the bottom. There was the label that went down below that was like to be able to redeem. So you see the cut, you can actually see the cutoff there. So this is the only unlabeled example that is in an SGC holder. So, and I've got it. So there you go.
That's beautiful, Dan. You're like you said, the presentation, the colors, the corner is collecting not only Benny but cards in general. Dan, do you put a lot into that? Do you just want to have it slabbed? Do you want to have a copy, or is the grading, which we could get into it, and that's a show in itself? Is that important to you?
I mean, it really depends on the card, on the issue, on how rare it is. Sometimes, these cards are so old that you need some sort of authentication. that this is a real card. And a lot of these, I can tell that they're real.
Sure.
But if you wanted to sell it, if your family wanted to sell it after you moved on, there's a lot of things to consider. Some of these cards, I purchased them, they've already been graded. Like the Benny Kauff card has already been graded. It came to me that way. But for me, it's a whole bunch of different things. When you collect cards that are so rare, a lot of times the condition is not even the issue. It's almost just getting your hands on it is the most important thing. And sometimes if it's a card that there are a number of them out there, you want to get the one that's has the brightest color, the best registration, the best you can find in terms of quality. But a lot of times, like I said, a lot of these cards you don't really have a choice because there aren't that many out there. And the ones that are out there are staying in collections. They don't come up that often.
You have become known, I hope you get a chuckle out of this. You've become known around my home as Uncle Dan, because you have some pearls of wisdom. I think you've led me in a great direction. My wife would say otherwise. Again, when the Old Man and the Sea book arrived, she goes, "That's it." She came out of the foxhole with the white flag. And she said, "That's it. No more. You're cut off." But you came up with one of the greatest expressions that I have seen in the hobby. We are just custodians of our collection. Someday they will move on. They will be in other hands. That's why I say, in return, Dan, enjoy them. If you enjoy collecting Benny Kauff, then all the power to you. Enjoy it and enjoy the hobby.
Yeah. We're not only are we custodians of these cards, but we're the custodians of the stories of these cards. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these stories are never going to be, Benny Kauff doesn't get talked about very often. There's a lot of guys that are in my collection that I find fascinating that their stories would be lost to history.
Yes.
That whole Fendrick thing with the postcard and World War I and the connection to the cigar factory and the cards that come out. Nobody, there's only 6 of these cards in existence.
Yes. I don't want you to steal my thunder, but in an upcoming show later this summer, we're going to feature a player on this show, and you might want to just take a look at it yourself, Dan, because I found the story fascinating. And that is a guy by the name of Gene Bearden, who gets a beautiful card in this, the wonderful set. Look at that. Look at that. But of course, they spell his name with an O instead of an E. Did you know that he put up remarkable numbers? He fought in the war, had a plate in his head, had pins and screws in his arm, and they said you'd never pitch again. He went on to pitch 7 more years, Dan, and he put up great numbers. One year he had like 27 wins. That's the stories I want to hear. Those are the stories I want to learn about, and card collecting, take me there.
I have some bad news for you, Glenn. I have some very bad news for you.
You're doing it. You're not doing that story, or you did it.
In the Gene Bearden, I'm going to spoil it for you. The Gene Bearden in the war thing and all that plate in the head stuff, it was completely concocted and made up, and somebody has actually figured it out that it's not true.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Okay. You know what? This is going down a garden path I didn't expect at the end of the show. But do you know where I learned that story? There's a beautiful write-up to that. If anybody has, this is not what I expected, to be pulling books out of the bookshelf, but are you familiar with this book, Dan?
Yes.
And that is a pictorial. It's kind of a, what do we call it? That a coffee table book. Let me put the microphone down. But
I'm going to send you the link. Somebody did all the research on it. Gene Bearden's story was all fakakta.
This book had a write-up on all of it. And this is, again, you led me to this. I said, I want books where I learn the history. And these books are great because they give you a write-up. And you're telling me it's all a pile of steamy BS.
Yeah, Gene Bearden in particular. And I'll tell you, Gene Bearden, the 1948 Cleveland Indians do not win the World Series if it were not for Gene Bearden. Not only in the season, but he won the game that won the playoff game. He won the playoff game over Boston, and then he won the clinching game in the World Series.
Dan, you had to go ruin it. You had to ruin it for me.
Bearden is a great pitcher that one season, and then he hurt his arm, and then he was shit after that. Sorry. He was not good after that.
Well, wait a sec.
In reality,
yeah,
the story of him being a war hero is all complete bogus. It's completely bogus. And
if you're going to listen, if you're coming to the table and you are going to contradict history, Where did you hear this, and why is this, to you anyway, why do you believe that this is some hooey?
Because somebody did really, really good research on it.
You're going to send me the link. Okay.
Yep, here it is. Why did Gene Bearden fabricate his war story? Laying Gene Bearden's USS Helena story history to rest. A World Series hero misstated World War II record. Was it stolen? It's military.com. There's a whole bunch of it.
I'll tell you what, like I was saying to you, Dan, coming up this summer, we're going to talk about Gene Bearden and how there was not a plate in his head and he did not have screws in his arm. Live television. You got to love it. All right. I learned something else from Uncle Dan tonight. There you go.
I'm very sorry.
These are great stories. Again, I don't know if we really touched on it, and I digress to the beginning of the Benny Kauff story. Why Benny Kauff? What is it about Benny?
So I am fascinated by the Federal League, as I said, and I didn't know much about the Brooklyn Tip Tops, this team that played in Brooklyn for 2 seasons. And, you know, I'm a business owner in Brooklyn. It's right over the river over there. My brothers both went to school in Brooklyn. It's just like, it's in my blood. My mother was born in a hospital on the border of Queens and Brooklyn. So, you know, and I was fascinated by this team. So I started looking into it. And the second year of the team, they got this great player who had been the MVP the season before, Benny Kauff. So I start looking into Benny Kauff, and I'm trying to get his cards. And I discovered that he has very few baseball cards. I ultimately discovered he has more than I originally thought. So I wanted to get a Benny Kauff baseball card. And then I started learning more and more about him. And every turn of the page is an interesting part of his story. So that's the why. It starts with Brooklyn, and it just, as soon as you open up the book and start reading about Benny Kauff, you can't stop reading. That's how interesting this guy is.
Okay. Here's a little a montage, if you will, over top of us, because there's something magical about these. They've stood the test of time, maybe more so than us. So here we go. Mm-hmm. Benny Kauff. You got a couple there. You got the 20 and 21. You've got those beautiful ones you talked about. You like that 1919 to 21. You got the, again, I think they're all great. 1917, the Collins McCarthy. And let's go back to, you've got the Globe clothing one. That's from 1915. And then what was one of the magical sets of all time, other than maybe T206 to me, is Cracker Jack. And in fact, in a recent show, I talk in depth, as you probably know, as far as Cracker Jack goes, there's a beautiful illustration from that, the Shoeless Joe Jackson, and we talked about that in a recent show. So again, go check some of my shows as well. Which was your favorite of the Benny Kauffs? I see 2, 4, 6, 7 of those cards that you sent me links to. You've shown them live in person. Pick one. Tell me why it's your favorite, Danny.
It's got to be the Cracker Jack. You know, it's probably it's what they call his rookie card. I'm not a real rookie card guy, but it is a rookie card. And it says Indianapolis Federals. And that's one of the beautiful things about the Cracker Jacks is that there were all the Federal League teams are represented. Mm-hmm. So you end up with a Federal League card of a guy who was the MVP that season. I didn't have an MVP, but he was obvious that he would be. It's Kauff's rookie card. It's a Cracker Jack. It's also a high number, which made it a little more expensive. It's number 180. 160. I'm not sure how many cards are in the set, like 190 or something, 200. But and it's, you know, it's such a beautiful card with the color and everything, and it's got some of those. It's got some, you know, a little bit of Cracker Jack brown staining in there too. So it's got the patina, as they call it. So it's got to be the Cracker Jack. Although, I mean, I do love this Globe clothing because there are 2 of these. there's this one and this one other graded card.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I thought that maybe the specimen that was more on the on the meager side of things. You can't find one. You're proud of that one. I think you should be proud of them all. They're all great ones.
There aren't that many.
You not only found them, but I think they are great specimens.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, great. And I'll tell you, I learned so much from your channel. So when I started the show tonight, and I felt a lot more comfortable. We'd never met. I feel more comfortable now. I think we're talking more freely, and I'm having a whole lot of fun talking, but we got to wrap it up shortly. collecting is a wonderful thing. I get to meet people like you. I learn the great stories behind the cards from people like you. Keep up the great work, because I look forward to each and every week to your shows. I have been a fan of the Four Corners for some time. I've met a lot of the different. I mean, you kind of shuffle the deck like it's a deck of 52 over there, not the Four Corners, but it's the 52 corners of the collecting world. But I always tune in each week to see who's going to be in there. You're often in there, and again, keep sharing the stories, Dan, and bringing them to life, and let those stories live on in the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, that's to me, that's what is the drive behind the channel. Is to bring on people who can show me their collections and talk about players or teams or years or events that are interesting and that have connection to cards and that the cards bring to life. And so it's just been like a magical ride for me. It's been almost, like I said, almost 3 years just having fun every week. I look forward to doing the shows. I don't even mind doing the research. It's like, it's like going back to school, but it's fun. And so, it's just, and, meeting guys like you, having you say such nice things about my channel, it's really rewarding. And, I get comments and people have questions and they just, the feedback has been really remarkable. And it makes me feel like it's worth it. And, sometimes I have a show that has 250 people who view it. Sometimes I have a show that has 2,500 people who view it. So it just, it depends. And 250 or 2,500 doesn't make a difference. I'm having fun doing every single one of them. So that's the real test.
That's exactly what Eric and I have said here on this channel. At the end of the day, we love talking baseball. We talk Giants baseball nightly. And when I get to do this show, talking baseball cards, Eric said, he goes, geez, I watched, we recently taped a show. He says, before it went to air, I watched it. He goes, it's such a natural. I go, it's easy to talk baseball cards, isn't it? Like when when you have a passion for what you really are diving into, it's just, it gets my blood flowing. The kind words come from the heart. I look forward to your shows, the research. It's sort of, not to put you down now, but it's like a poor man's version of Ken Burns. You are bringing it. It's theater of the mind. I love the stories. And then on top of it, Dan, keep up the good work. I know you said there's research involved. Part of your research is going out and acquiring a card or two that you might necessarily not have any interest in. You bring those to life and you bring them in as part of the presentation, which I really appreciate too.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I should say that Ken Burns made a lot of mistakes in that baseball documentary. So,
did he happen to talk about Gene?
I don't think Gene Beard was in that, but if it was and they told the war story, that would be wrong too.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got my Roger Peckinpah at the end of the day, so I don't care. I got Roger, and I know a lot of your friends in the hobby and the guys who've been on you. They'd love to get their mitts on this puppy, and they can't. Have it, Dan. Yeah. And this is all because you led me down the path to acquiring a Roger Peckinpah. There you go. Dan, if I haven't scared you away, maybe later on this year, maybe after the National or at the National, we record a show. I'd love to get together again and maybe dive into some more rich tradition of the history of baseball cards and their stories.
I am accepting your invitation right now.
I appreciate it, my friend. Appreciate it. Keep me in mind. If you happen to see any Wilmer Flores or Mike Schoolers out there that look, I'll get you got my number. Text me if you got a hot card out there.
If I could have a opportunity to apologize to Mike Schooler, I will welcome that.
Dan Lynch, Dan's Vintage Baseball Cards, his PC. It's just Dan and all of his many friends talking baseball cards over on that channel. It's Glenn, Eric, and Lou most nights here on Giant Sports Talk Live, wrapping it up another night of talking the thing that brings me the most joy, baseball and baseball cards. Good night, Dan, and thanks for tuning in with us and our viewers tonight on the program.
You've been watching It's in the Cards with Glenn, a presentation of Izzy's Gym on Giant Sports Talk Live, a Northern Lights Entertainment broadcasting production.